The general impression about harem is that it was a place where male members of imperial and aristocratic families kept their women. This definition is quite a misnomer as harem was actually a place of abode both for male and female members and just not for their women folk. It was there that such abode was known as a prohibited place owing to the sanctity it was viewed with loyalists. These premises were guarded because it housed the most important members of the ruling families. In addition to the royal residence, it was also home to royal and aristocratic women, and it was this aspect that was highlighted in the annals of the history where these lodgings were painted as an exclusive place where women lived in a vacuum-sealed world of their own. As was the prevailing practice, the Mughal code of honor demanded that many of the royal women were even nameless. To the outside world though, it was often mentioned that they considered living in these quarters a high honor. Keeping in view the exalted position the emperor has designated himself, the Mughal harem was an immense establishment. Akbar had more than 5,000 women in his harem, comprising wives, concubines, female relatives, administrators, guards, cooks, and menials. Lady officers in Akbar's harem received stipends varying from 27 to 1610 rupees a month, and these wages were high in comparison to an ordinary Mughal cavalryman who received a maximum of just 13 rupees a month. The total cash stipends that Akbar paid to the harem women came to 852,000 rupees a year, excluding the pay of eunuchs. Harem salaries rose even higher under later emperors, and this financial emolument indicated the high status of the lady officers looking after female quarters of the harem. The vastness of the imperial harem, its reputed opulence, and the fact that there was little authentic information about harem's life led to a lot of spicy speculation among the public about what went on there, based on the colorful gossips of eunuchs and harem servants. Inevitably, their accounts are met with exaggerations and distortions. There was hardly any doubt that the emperor did maintain a large number of wives and concubines, as he was compelled to beget many children so that some of them might survive, keeping in view the prevalent high infant mortality rate. But this was not the only reason for the emperor to maintain a vast harem. By the significant underlying reason was that many royal marriages were contracted for the political reasons, the cement alliances, or to show favor. Nevertheless, contrary to common myth, the arduous life of the emperor left him with the little leisure of amorous play. It was also very clear that the imperial harem was a part of the pomp and display expected of the emperor, as it behooved his status as the supreme lord. The harem contained beautiful apartments, separated and more or less spacious and splendid according to the rank and income of the females. Nearly every chamber had its reservoir of running water at the door. On every side were gardens, delightful alleys, shady retreats, streams, fountains, grottos, deep incavations that afford shelter from the sun by day, lofty divans and terraces on which to sleep coolly at night. The apartments were decorated with gold and azure, exquisite paintings, and magnificent mirrors. The royal harem, being also the residence of the emperor, was tightly guarded within. It was guarded by sober and active women, with the most trustworthy of them placed about the apartment of His Majesty. Outside the enclosure, the eunuchs were placed, and at a proper distance there was a guard. Besides, on all four sides there were guards of nobles, Ahadis, and other troops, Uzbek, Tartar, and Ethiopian. Women were preferred for harem duty, and eunuchs came mainly from Bengal. The emperor spent a good part of his working day in the harem, but he spent it working, for it was here that he did some of his most confidential work. The harem was his residence cum private office, and it was run like a full-fledged government department with its own budget, administrators, and accountants, headed by the Mahaldar, the lady superintendent. The female part of the harem was usually headed by the emperor's chef queen, but at times the first lady was the royal mother, as Hamida was in Akbar's harem. The First Lady had her own formal seat in the Hall of the Ladies, wing on which, as on throne, no one else was allowed to sit. The usuk, the royal signet ring, was usually in her keeping, which gave her a chance to review the final draft of firmans. When the affairs of the empire were considered a family matter, it was inevitable that members of the royal family, including women, should be involved in the business of government. The Begums, watching and listening from behind the screens of Darbar halls, were knowledgeable about affairs of state, for they were privy to secret reports that the emperor received from his intelligence agents, which were open in the harem. Due to their daily contact with the emperor and the intimacy of their relationship, the women folk exercised considerable influence on the modulation of state policy. The Begums were a potent though invisible power behind the throne. Such a role for high-born women was not unusual in Islamic political tradition. However, it was only the exceptional women, under exceptional circumstances, who made a mark in medieval history. Many royal women enjoyed fabulous incomes which they could deploy in any enterprise of their choice, and sometimes jagirs or specific taxes were assigned to the Begums. A good part of the immense resource of the Begums was spent on luxurious, but a fair amount was also spent on the patronage of culture, on charities, or on the construction of the monumental buildings. Exchanging gifts was an engaging diversion for the Begums. Occasionally, the great Begums indulged in international trade. Jahangir's mother, Mariam Zamani, for instance, conducted intensive overseas trade, and so did Noor Jahan and Jahanara, and there were several other like them. The royal ladies also played an important role in the patronage of officials, and amirs courted them assiduously, sending them presents and seeking their advice and support. The Begums knew all the top officers, having watching them through the grills in the Darbar hall. There could be, of course, no direct contact between the Begums and the amirs, and they had to communicate with each other through inaj. In exceptional cases, the emperor conferred on a senior emir the freedom to enter the harem as a gesture of high favor and great intimacy. If you really like the video, then like, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel.